You say you're just laid back, but really you've stopped expecting anything good. You say you like being alone, but honestly, people have just disappointed you too many times. You call it a personality trait. But what if it's not personality? What if it's protection? We all have patterns, ways we move through the world that feel natural, automatic, even harmless. But sometimes the habits we cling to aren't quirks, they're scars. Quiet defenses we built without even realizing, just to feel safe. Dr. Gabor Maté, a renowned expert in trauma and addiction, once said, "Trauma is not what happens to you, but what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you." So today, we're going to peel back the layers. 6 habits that seem like just the way I am, but might actually be unhealed trauma in disguise. And if this hits close to home, if you recognize even one of these in yourself, stick around, because awareness is the first step toward freedom. Oh, and before we dive in, if this kind of reflection resonates with you, take a second to subscribe. This space is for the quiet fighters, the ones who are done performing healing and ready to actually feel it. Let's begin. Habit 1. You avoid conflict at all costs. You hate arguments. You shut down during confrontation. You'd rather say nothing than risk someone being upset with you. People call you the peacekeeper. But it's not peace you're keeping, it's fear. See, if you grew up in a household where anger meant danger or where your feelings were dismissed, your nervous system might have learned that speaking up equals pain. So you silence yourself. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You call it being easygoing. But beneath that calm exterior is a hyper-vigilant heart, always scanning for threat. This isn't just a personality trait, it's a fawn response, one of the lesser-known trauma reactions, alongside fight, flight, and freeze. It's where you please, appease, and disappear, all to feel safe. Habit 2, you overachieve relentlessly. You're always working, always fixing, always performing. You pride yourself on being productive. You get things done, you're driven. But deep down, you're exhausted because somewhere along the way, your worth got tied to your output. Maybe praise was only given when you succeeded. Maybe love felt conditional, earned, not given. As Dr. Nicole LePera writes in How to Do the Work, for many, achievement becomes a coping mechanism, an attempt to fill the void left by unmet emotional needs. You weren't taught to rest. You were taught to earn your place. Habit 3, you isolate when you're hurting. You disappear when you're overwhelmed. You cancel plans. You stop replying. People say you're independent, but isolation isn't the same as solitude. If your past taught you that your feelings were a burden, or that vulnerability was unsafe, you might have learned to retreat into yourself every time you feel pain. It's not that you don't need people, it's that you're afraid of being seen in your most tender moments. Because in the past, being seen meant being shamed, ignored, or abandoned. This isn't independence, it's self-preservation wrapped in silence. Habit 4. You over-explain everything. You feel guilty for setting boundaries. You write long texts justifying your feelings. You say sorry more than you say hello. People think you're just really thoughtful, but what they don't see is the panic beneath the politeness. Over-explaining is often rooted in trauma. It's what happens when you were constantly misunderstood, when your needs weren't validated, then when being wrong meant being punished. Your brain wires itself to believe, if I explain well enough, maybe they won't leave. Maybe I won't be rejected. But healthy relationships don't need dissertations. They need presence, honesty, and trust that your needs are valid even when you say them simply. Habit 5. You laugh through your pain. You're the funny one. The dark humor friend, the one who makes light of serious things. And sure, humor can be healing, but it can also be a shield. When you make jokes about your deepest wounds, when you drop trauma bombs mid-laugh, you're not just being edgy, You're trying to take the sting out before someone else can use it against you. It's like what researcher Brené Brown says, we rehearse tragedy so we can beat vulnerability to the punch. But here's the thing, healing doesn't happen behind a punchline. It happens when we let ourselves feel the full weight of our stories without needing to turn them into entertainment. Habit 6, you push people away before they can get close. You ghost, you disappear. You pull back the moment something feels too intimate, and you call it protecting your peace. But sometimes it's just fear in disguise. When love has felt like a trap, when closeness has ended in betrayal, your brain wires itself to believe, better to leave first than be left. But here's the hard truth. Healing requires risk. You can't selectively numb fear without also numbing joy. You can't keep the door closed and still hope someone will come in. Now, why does any of this matter? Because when we mistake trauma for personality, we stop ourselves from growing. We accept pain as identity. We say, this is just who I am, when really it's who we became to survive. But survival isn't the same as living. Here's what you can do starting today. First, name it. Call your patterns what they are. Not flaws, not quirks, but adaptations. When you name something, you take its power away. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Second, teach your body safety. Trauma lives in the nervous system, not just the mind, so healing has to be embodied. Breathwork, cold exposure, mindful walking, eye contact with safe people. These aren't trends, they're tools. Tools that retrain your body to believe, I'm okay now. Third, choose your environment. You cannot heal in chaos. You cannot thrive around people who make you doubt your worth. Surround yourself with consistency, with kindness, with people who don't need you to explain why you feel what you feel. The truth is, your trauma isn't your fault. But your healing, that's your responsibility. Because your story doesn't end with what hurt you. It begins with what you do now, and maybe, just maybe, that person you've been calling too sensitive, too quiet, too much, is actually someone brave enough to become who they were before the world taught them to hide. So what if your personality wasn't fixed? What if it was just a doorway waiting to be walked through? If this spoke to something in you, don't let it end here. Reflect, rest, rewire, repeat, and if you're still here, you're not broken, you're becoming. If this felt a little too real, good. That means something in you is ready to shift. Don't just scroll past this. Subscribe, because this space is for people unlearning survival mode and choosing real healing. And if someone came to mind while you watched, send this their way. Not to fix them, but to remind them they're not alone, and neither are you. Let's keep going. Together. Thank you for watching.